Welcome back to another Grant Horvat Teaches video. Today, we are going to teach you how to chip, but also how to not hit chunks and thin shots. So what I see a lot of golfers do when they're chipping, you guys probably see it a lot too. You see this shot, but you also see this shot. And that's a lot to do with the bottom of the arc, and that can be fixed just by setting up properly to a chip. So we're going to go over that today in this video. I want to start this video by saying chipping in short game requires a little bit of practice and time. You're going to want to spend more time here than you do out beating balls on the range because it requires a little bit of touch and finesse, and also you need to have the correct feeling in your hands how to hit these shots. So we're going to go over setup first on how to hit a proper chip shot. So we're going to be going right to this flag here. We're going to be using a sand wedge today, so a 56 degree, and we're going to be going right to this flag. Now, when I'm chipping, first thing, checkpoint number one is going to be my weight is on my left side. So I have about 70% of my weight left. And that's because I want to use this left leg here as basically a pivot point and stay on my left side. Now, if I keep my weight there, it's always going to bottom out in the same position. As if I'm moving my weight back, I'm going to hit back, or if I'm moving my weight forward, I could thin it. So I'm keeping my weight 70-30 on my left side to maintain the same bottoming out point. So that's like my anchor. This left leg is my anchor. Weight left. The next thing, I like to have a very narrow stance. I don't want a super wide stance when I'm chipping. I want my feet nice and close together. So weight left, stance close together. And the last thing that I think of when I'm chipping is ball position. So ball position is a huge thing. I see a lot of golfers, when they get over a chip, they move it super far back. They got those hands way ahead, and they're hitting chips like this. They're coming out super low, no spin, and they're stabbing at it. Let's go to this flag here. Let's go over every checkpoint right here. Weight left, feet close together. I like that ball position in the center of my stance. A very minimal amount of shaft lean here. And from here, we keep that weight left, and now we just use the big muscles. Should come out right next to the pin. Guys, I want you to notice one thing after that chip shot. I did not take a huge divot, none of that digging. I actually just sweeped it, and that's because I didn't have a ton of shaft lean to start. So that's one thing I want you guys to avoid when you're chipping, and to stop these chunks and these thin shots is when you get that handle super far ahead, your margin for error is very, very small when you have a ton of shaft lean and you're using the leading edge. So let's hit another shot here. I want to explain that margin of error, and this is going to stop those thin shots and chunks. So we're going to use our setup that we just learned. Weight left, 70% of my weight left, feet nice and close together, ball position in the center. Now, instead of having those hands super far ahead, what I'm doing is I'm having them just slightly ahead, but what that is doing is exposing somewhat of this bounce here. So we're using the bottom of the club here. It's going to slide. This is the part of the club. I want to explain this really quick. This is the part of the club that is going to give you guys forgiveness, the bottom. This edge here, this is what digs. This is what creates those thin shots and those chunks, is when you're really digging and trying to pinch it. So what we want to do is avoid doing that. We want to use the bottom of the sole here on this wedge. So let's go over it one more time here. We're going to this pin, feet nice and close together, weight left, just a little bit of shaft lean. Now I'm just trying to sweep. I'm trying to just sweep here, guys. Use the big muscles and sweep. Perfect golf shot there. I didn't even move a blade of grass, really. It just brushed it, used the bottom of the club. So this is the coolest part about using the bounce and setting up to the chip properly, is now, if you learn how to set up properly and you don't have too much shaft lean and you use the stuff we're learning today, you can actually get away with bad shots. So watch this. I want you guys to watch something really quick. If I use the bounce properly here, and I don't use this leading edge like that, and I actually use the bottom of the club, see how this slides? This part will slide across the turf. Now watch this. I can actually get away with a bad chip shot. Okay, I'm gonna try and purposely hit behind this. I hit, so that ball was up here, I hit back here and the club slid into the ball. Now, if I do the same thing and I use the technique that I see a lot of amateurs using, which is hands way ahead, back in the stance. Now if I do that same thing and I hit just an inch behind it, that's what's gonna happen. So you can get away with bad golf shots learning how to use the bounce of your club. That is a huge thing for today's concept on how to chip, but also how to stop chunking and thinning all of your chip shots. So we've talked a lot about why chunks happen. I've kind of showed you a lot. Let me explain why thin shots tend to happen. What I see with thin shots is usually when you're catching the upper half of the golf ball, you're catching it on the upswing, and that's when it comes out low and it goes zooming across the green. It's the worst feeling in golf, is when you hit that low bladed thin shot. That always happens because of setup. And when you have your weight not enough on your left side here and you start maybe 50-50 and you go backwards and try and lift it into the air, you try and lift it and help the ball into the air, which a lot of people do, this is what happens. They hit the upper half of the ball, thin it. Man, I'm pulling off the thins and chunks today. This is scary. Like I don't want to learn how to do this, but that's exactly what happens, guys. I see a lot of people, the weight moves back and they catch it on the upswing and they catch the upper half of this ball. So I really do feel when I'm chipping good, my feet are nice and close together, but 70% of my weight is here and I'm using that as basically a pivot point, an anchor point. And every single time, if you drew a line right here, I should bottom out in the same position every time because my weight is maintaining on that left foot there. I mean, there is a degree of hand-eye coordination. There's also a degree of practice that goes into it, because a lot of people ask, how much should I hinge my wrist is another question I get a lot. You know, how should I hinge my wrist a bunch? On this short shot here, I barely have any wrist hinge. It's very wide, just all body turning. So the body is controlling the club here. Now it's all big muscles, not the little hands, none of this, none of the wrists, big muscles. A little too hard there. Still, good contact, caught the ball first. And that's one thing, guys, hopefully you guys learned a little bit in today's video. You gotta get away from those chunks and thin shots there. That's where I see a lot of golfers losing a ton of shots, is chipping. It's one of the toughest things in golf, is how to chip properly. We're gonna have some more episodes coming out on maybe chipping out of the rough, different scenarios, but hopefully you guys, by the end of this video, have the correct setup in your head, so the next time you go out on the golf course, you're able to set up correctly and hit consistent chip shots. I wanna know from you guys in the comments, we read all the comments, what else do you guys want to see in these teaching videos? Because we wanna go over all the concepts you are struggling with, what you need help with. So go now, comment below exactly what you would like to see in the future, and we're gonna be trying to help you guys on your golf game. Hopefully today you learned a little bit. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you've not yet subscribed to Grant Horvat Teaches, make sure you go subscribe and hit that little notification bell. Also, really quick, we are out here today at Pebble Beach doing this lesson video because of an organization called Youth on Course. And basically they are getting young golfers into the game of golf. And if you guys donate more than $5 to the link below, we'll have it in the description, you will be entered to win a custom Stealth driver. So you can customize any colors you want, anything along those lines, if you guys donate more than $5. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. Until next time, peace.